TFA fam, welcome back into the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Derrick Henry. Yes, you knew it was coming. You knew we had to talk about it. I've been waiting to get to it, but here we are. He is going at the 103 in PPR formats, and I'm going to tell you right now, that's a big no from me, dog. We're going to talk about that. Stick around, strap it in, lock it out. Let's ride. Welcome back into the video. Like I said, we're talking Derrick Henry. Let's jump right into it, shall we? We need to separate two things, okay? One, Derrick Henry, the football player, and Derrick Henry, the fantasy football asset. Those are two separate things. Derrick Henry, the football player, is one of the best running backs we've ever seen, and there's no denying that whatsoever. The things that this man can do on the football field at his size is absolutely just ridiculous. It's not fair. Okay, going back since 2016, he is second in the league in rushing yards, first in yards after contact, second in rushing touchdowns, first in missed tackles forced, eighth in yards per carry, and third in yards after contact per carry. Just ridiculous, right? But the thing that we are most concerned with is, quite simply, in PPR formats, you cannot draft Derrick Henry, okay? And I'm here to tell you why. First, let's talk about what he did in 2016, his absolutely historical season. 20.7 fantasy points per game, 33.5 fantasy points overall, which was third, 66% snap share, 78% opportunity share, 67 red zone touches, 31 targets, which was 38th among all running backs, 378 carries, 2,027 rushing yards, 19 receptions, which was 46th among all running backs, 114 receiving yards, 61st among all running backs, 17 total touchdowns, an absolutely ridiculous 997 yards created, 2.51 yards created per touch, which was second among all running backs, 112 avoided tackles, which is first, and 0.57 yards per route run. While on paper, that looks fantastic, right? And you're like, sign me up for that again. But here's the problem. It's not going to happen again, okay? And it was a complete outlier season. He had a top 1% outcome for his career. And guess what? He still didn't finish as the RB1 or the RB2. Okay? That is the problem with drafting Derrick Henry, is that you are drafting him at his absolute ceiling. That is rule number one in fantasy football. Do not draft players based off last year's outcome. Do not draft players that have a limited ceiling in the top three. What we are looking for, quite simply, is guys like Christian McCaffrey, who can put up 25 plus fantasy points per game output. I mean, look at Alvin Kamara last year. This is a good example. Derrick Henry was so fantastic last year, right? But he only averaged 20 fantasy points per game. Alvin Kamara averaged 25 fantasy points. He scored 5 fantasy points more per game. That is significant, and that's the problem. And the other thing, so when you're drafting running backs in the first two rounds, something that we have to understand, and I shout out Pat Kerrane. He has a terrific article over on Yahoo about this very thing that I'm just going to kind of briefly touch on. And that's the bust rate for running backs in the first 6 rounds of a draft, right? Running backs are busting at a much higher rate than wide receivers. Okay, and there's something that we like to refer to as the running back dead zone in years past, which is rounds 3 through 6. Now, I'm a believer that I don't think there is really a dead zone this year. Last year, it was guys like Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley, the guys that were kind of over the hill that were going in rounds 3 through 6. This year, it's just not the case. This year, we got Miles Sanders, even David Montgomery, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Myles Gaskin, Javonte Williams. Like, there's a lot of really good running backs with Travis Etienne. All these running backs are running backs that I think that people should be interested in, and that I think that just kind of is going to make it a little bit different. However, since 2015, 48 running backs drafted in the first 6 rounds have had a sub 5% win rate. In other words, 27% of all running backs drafted in the first 6 rounds have been outright losing leagues. And now wide receivers aren't perfect either, but they've had an 18% bust rate, which is significantly better than what running backs have had. And even to make matters worse, running backs drafted in rounds 1 through 2 have a 40% bust rate, compared to that of just running backs taken in rounds 3 through 6 have a 19% bust rate. Now, this is why a lot of people go with zero RB, because you avoid that chaos that goes on in the later round, or that goes on in the earlier round, and you kind of avoid that. Now, am I advocating for zero RB? No. That's why I think anchor RB is the ultimate strategy. You take that one running back, especially if you have an early down pick, and you take a Christian McCaffrey, and taking Christian McCaffrey, even if you want to go, Dalvin Cook, one of those early round running backs, you go one of those guys, and then you pass on running backs until rounds 5 or 6. There's still Michael Carter is going through there. Trey Sermon's going through there as well. James Conner, which I talked about in another video. I mean, there's a lot of running backs. Zach Moss. I mean, there's a lot of running backs in those mid to late rounds that I have a lot of interest in. So taking that anchor RB and then mitigating some of that risk, I think is smart. Why I can't take Derrick Henry. Since 2015, running backs have 7 finishes of 20% win rates. Wide receivers have just 3. And running backs have 4 finishes with 25% win rate. There's no wide receiver. So when you're drafting an early round running back, we need that absolute legendary upside. We're talking about Todd Gurley in 2017. We're talking about Christian McCaffrey in 2019. Those years where they absolutely won your league, that they put themselves you on your back and they carried you to the promised land, right? We're talking about 25 plus fantasy points per game minimum. Derrick Henry doesn't have that. He had 20 fantasy points per game last year. That is a 5 points per game loss. He does not offer you that because he does not catch passes. Okay? That is my problem, is because he does not have that ceiling. We saw his historic 1% outcome season last year, and he still didn't finish as the RB1. And that was with Christian McCaffrey hurt. That's with Saquon Barkley was hurt. That's with Ezekiel Elliott having an off year because Dak Prescott got hurt. Right? He had all that. Now, chaos happens. The running backs are going to get hurt. Things always happen every year, okay? We cannot mitigate that. But what we're trying to do is find that absolute league-winning upside. That's why you take Christian McCaffrey first overall, because he possesses that. That's why you take Dalvin Cook. That's why you take Alvin Kamara. That's why you take Aaron Jones. That's why you take Antonio Gibson. That's why you take Najee Harris. That's why you take even Ezekiel Elliott over Derrick Henry, because he does not have that. He is limited. He is capped. You do not draft a running back at 103 who is absolutely capped. We are searching for that league-winning upside because we know there's a 40% bust rate. There is definitely the range of possibility that the Titans' defense is terrible this year, and the Titans are forced to throw the football, which is going to limit Derrick Henry, which is going to take him off the field, which is going to lower that touch total. And if that happens, and let's say he goes from the 2,000-yard season, which we've never seen a running back do twice in their career, and let's say he rushes for 1,500 yards, and he gets 12 touchdowns. Still a really good year. But he's going to get surpassed by a lot of these running backs. He's going to finish at RB10, RB11, RB12, which doesn't seem like much, but you're talking about a pretty significant drop-off. You're talking about a running back that's probably at 250 fantasy points, 260 fantasy points. Still a good season, but not worth the 103. Fantasy football isn't hard, but we're making it hard by taking Derrick Henry at 103. I don't care about his floor. I don't care that he has a safe floor, because he doesn't. Because he can very easily get game scripted out of games. We've seen it. It's just the Titans have been on this heater the last 2 seasons where they've absolutely been one of the most efficient offenses in the league. Their offensive coordinator is gone. He is now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Does that play a role? I don't know. I'm not a big believer in believing in stuff like that, but I think it very well could have some effect. I think Darrington Evans is going to have a bigger role this year. Does he eat into Derrick Henry? No. But I'm just saying, with the fact that he doesn't catch passes, you cannot draft him in a PPR format. Do not do yourself the disservice of drafting Derrick Henry at the 103. It is going to be a mistake. It is absolutely a mistake. Pass on Derrick Henry. Go with a different running back. Go with Aaron Jones, who absolutely has league-winning upside. Go with, if you want to go with Zeke, I'm still on the board of Saquon. Well, we'll wait and see what happens with him. If he does get ruled out for the first 2 games of the season, if that's what happens, then we'll talk about it. But until then, Saquon Barkley's still in the conversation. Antonio Gibson, 100% in the conversation. Austin Eckler's in the conversation. Najee Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. All these running backs are in that conversation. And I'm sure I missed a couple. But regardless, that's why you can't take Derrick Henry. If you don't catch passes in PPR formats, you can't be a league winner, and that's why you don't take him at the 103. If he was going in the second round, it would be a different conversation. Just draft Nick Chubb, who's going a full round later, if that's what you're looking for. I digress. I appreciate everybody checking out the video. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe button for future content. We're winning fantasy championships around here. Be sure to jump into our Discord. It's in the description down below. Absolutely free to join. Free fantasy football community. If you love talking about football, fantasy football, redraft, dynasty, DFS, best ball, whatever have you. We're all in there. We're conversations are lighting up all the time. People are dropping in their teams. We're talking about that. Trades, we'll get doing that, and waivers will be big too. So if you want access to us or to just an entire community for free, Jump on in. It's free. Hope to see everybody over there. You can let me know what you think about Derrick Henry then. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.